Ready for some serious family drama?
Oh, always up for that.
Today we're going deep into the book of Genesis, chapters 34 through 36.
All right.
To follow the ups and downs of a family that's, well, let's just say complicated.
Sounds intriguing.
We're talking betrayal, revenge, divine encounters.
Wow.
Oh, and a name change that sets the stage for an entire nation.
Yeah, I hear that every day.
You might think you know Jacob's story,
Right.
but trust me, you're in for some surprises.
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Okay, so Genesis chapter 34.
Okay.
It starts with Jacob's daughter Dinah visiting some local women. Sounds innocent enough, right?
So far, so good.
But that's when we're introduced to Shechem,
Okay.
a prince who, and I'm quoting here,
Okay.
saw her, he took her and lay with her and raped her.
It's described as a disgraceful act in Israel.
Yeah.
This event, it triggers just this wave of reactions and sets in motion a chain of events with some pretty devastating consequences.
It's a stark reminder of the vulnerability of women in that society.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
Now, Shechem, he's smitten with Dinah
Okay.
and asks his father to arrange a marriage. But Jacob's sons,
Yeah.
they are not on board with a peaceful union, not even a little bit.
Yeah, you can imagine.
So it's important to consider the cultural context here.
Right.
Marrying outside one's tribe or religion, it was a massive deal.
Yeah.
And Jacob's sons used this cultural tension as leverage,
Okay.
demanding all the men of Shechem be circumcised if they want Dinah as a wife.
Talk about a power play. Makes you wonder if they're being genuine or if something else is going on here.
It seems like a huge ask. You have to wonder what's their end game.
Right.
Because remember, they are furious about what happened to their sister.
Okay, so we've got this powder keg of emotions, cultural tension, and now it's life-altering demand.
Right.
What happens next?
Well, Shechem and his father,
Yeah.
they believe it's a reasonable request.
Really?
They convince the men of their city to agree.
They're willing to go through with it.
It seems so.
Wow.
This speaks to Shechem's influence
Okay.
and maybe even their genuine desire for peace.
Okay.
But their tragic flaw, assuming Jacob's sons are negotiating in good faith.
Uh-oh. This doesn't sound good. What are Jacob's sons really up to? Assuming Jacob's sons are negotiating in good faith. I mean,
Yeah, talk about it really makes you question the justification of revenge.
right.
Even when you're seeking justice for, a horrific act.
Yeah, for sure.
It's complicated.
So how does Jacob react to all of this?
What
This
the-
bloody revenge plot? Is he mad?
He's definitely concerned, but not necessarily for the reasons you might think.
Oh.
Yeah. He's worried about the consequences
Okay.
of their actions. So he says to Simeon and Levi, and I'm paraphrasing here, "You've brought trouble on me by making me a stench to the inhabitants of the land."
What does that even mean?
He's basically saying
Yeah.
that you made me look bad to our neighbors.
Okay.
He's more worried about retaliation from the surrounding communities than about, the moral implications of his son's actions,
So it's more about self-preservation than anything else.
It seems that way.
That's really sobering.
Yeah,
So clearly this whole ordeal, it really shakes Jacob.
it does.
I mean, it shakes me.
And it leads him to a significant turning point. In chapter 35,
Okay.
we see a shift. God appears to Jacob
Okay.
and tells him to go back to Bethel.
Back to Bethel.
Yeah.
Okay, so remind us
Yeah.
why Bethel. What's so special about Bethel?
So think back to Jacob's past. Bethel is where God first appeared to him when he was fleeing from Esau after, doing that whole thing.
Tricking him out of his birthright.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was a promise of God's protection and guidance.
Right.
So returning to Bethel represents a kind of homecoming,
Okay.
spiritual reset after all the violence and the deceit
Yeah.
in Shechem.
It's like a fresh start.
It's almost like he's going back to the drawing board, seeking a fresh start with God.
Yeah, and it's at this critical juncture
Yeah,
that God gives Jacob a new name.
he does. Talk about a turning point, right?
It's like getting a complete identity makeover.
It is.
So what's the significance behind this name change?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a name change. It's like this total transformation of his identity.
Right.
It's a reflection of his journey,
Yeah.
his wrestling with his flaws, but also with his faith.
So Israel means
It means he struggles with God,
okay.
which I think really signifies Jacob's struggles, but also his triumphs.
It's very appropriate.
Right. And it kind of foreshadows the destiny of his descendants, who will become the nation of Israel. So it's like their entire identity as a people is rooted in this moment, in Jacob's transformation.
Wow. So it really makes you wonder what's in a name. In this case, clearly a lot.
A lot.
But this chapter isn't all triumph and new beginnings.
It's not, no.
Tragedy also strikes.
It does. Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife,
No.
she dies while giving birth to their son.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Imagine experiencing such joy
Right.
and such profound loss at the same time.
It's a devastating loss for Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
And he names his son Benjamin,
Okay.
which means son at my right hand.
Okay.
But there's like this underlying sadness in the original Hebrew.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It hints at son of my sorrow. So it just underscores that even amidst life's most momentous events,
Right.
joy and sorrow can coexist.
It adds such a layer of complexity to this whole story.
Yeah, definitely.
Because life isn't linear. It's full of these contrasting emotions.
It is.
So we've got Jacob, now Israel,
Right.
on this just incredible journey of transformation, but also grappling with very personal loss. So what happens next?
Well, the story takes an interesting turn here. After all the focus on Jacob,
Okay.
we shift gears in Genesis chapter 36 to catch up with his twin brother, Esau.
Oh, Esau.
Yeah, we haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah, last we left him, Jacob had tricked him out of their father's blessing, and I imagine Esau was not happy about it.
There was a lot of tension there, yeah. And this chapter is often overlooked, but I think it's crucial for understanding the bigger picture
Okay.
because it meticulously traces Esau's lineage, his wives, his kids, his descendants. This genealogy establishes the origins of the Edomites,
And the Edomites are a group that will have a very
significant and often tumultuous relationship with the Israelites.
well, it's like those family dramas
Right.
that span generations.
Exactly. And what's really striking is that the chapter ends by highlighting that Edom already had established kingdoms before any king reigned over Israel.
Wait, so they had established kingdoms already?
They did.
That changes things.
It does.
It's like they're already ahead in the game before Israel even steps onto the field.
Precisely. It really raises all sorts of questions about how these two nations will interact,
Oh, for sure.
especially given their history.
And their very intertwined roots.
Yeah.
It just makes you wonder, how will their past, the rivalry between Jacob and Esau, shape the future of their descendants? Because it feels like there's so much potential for conflict
Actually,
from the very beginning.
And that's what makes these chapters so compelling,
Yeah.
because they're not just about one family's drama. They're about the forces that shape nations,
Right.
the echoes of choices made generations ago.
Right.
And they leave us with more questions than answers, which is kind of the hallmark of a truly great story.
It certainly is. It really gives you a lot to think about. Yeah. It's like we're watching the setup for some epic generational saga
Right.
with all the political intrigue.
Totally.
So we've got Jacob's descendants on their way to becoming this nation, Esau's descendants already there,
Already established.
and this tangled family history between them.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how these family dynamics can play out on this huge national level.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like how much of their future relationship
Right.
was shaped by these choices
Right.
that Jacob and Esau made generations earlier.
Yeah. It seems like the past really casts a long shadow on their future.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, right? Like how much of this is destiny and how much of it is free will?
Right. That's kind of the age-old question, isn't it?
Right. It really makes you think.
It does. It does. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Betrayal,
Oh, yeah.
revenge, divine encounters, family legacies, the birth of nations. I mean, if someone's listening to us talk about all this, what are some key takeaways you hope they walk away with?
Well, I think one of the big ones is just this enduring impact of choices.
Right?
Jacob's deceit, his son's violence, even Esau's decision to settle in Edom. These choices they made, they had ripple effects for generations.
Yeah.
Really makes you think about your own choices
Yeah.
and how they might impact not just you,
Yeah.
but the people who come after you, right?
It's a lot of responsibility when you think about it like that.
That really is.
Yeah.
And we also can't ignore the recurring theme of violence in these chapters.
That's true.
It's a sobering reminder of how easily conflict can spiral,
Yeah.
how these cycles of revenge can go on and on.
Yeah.
And it's a cautionary tale that sadly feels incredibly relevant today.
For sure.
It makes you wonder, can we break free from these cycles?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
What else? What else stood out to you?
We've got to talk about the power of names. I mean, Jacob's transformation into Israel, it's not just symbolic, it's this huge shift in identity.
Right.
This sign of his evolving relationship with God.
Right.
And the destiny of all his descendants.
Yeah, it's amazing how much weight a name can hold.
It really is. History, identity, destiny, it's all there.
So before we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners? Something to ponder as they go about their day?
Well, you remember how the text ends?
Okay.
By talking about these established kingdoms in Edom?
Right.
Before any king reigned over Israel?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, what's going to lead to the rise of kingship in Israel?
Right.
What will their relationship with Edom be like once they're both established?
Yeah.
Guess we'll have to keep reading to find out.
I guess we will. And that's the thing about these stories. They leave you with more questions than answers. And they keep you coming back for more.
They really do.
Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, happy reading, everybody.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.